time between transmissions, and net control will acknowledge you. If an emergency should arise and you need the repeater, please contact the net control by saying break break. A double break signifies emergency traffic. The net will stand by for you until the emergency is terminated or the traffic is moved to another frequency. Carol, are you on board with the YouTube streaming? Very good. Stations who wish to check in are asked to respond with their full call sign using the recognized ITU phonetic alphabet and their name. I will recognize each station before continuing, and I'll have an early check-in for Neil, KL7HQR, because he is away from things but intends to join us late. So Neil, thanks for checking in if you're listening, and I'll go for the next check-in.
Kilo 3 Romeo Echo Hotel, this is Anders.
Alpha India 6 Delta Golf, Joel and Florence.
All right, I got Anders, K3REH, and Joel, AI6DG. Thank you very much, both of you, for checking in. Good to hear your voices this evening. And any other check-ins?
Yeah, KP4MD, Carol.
Carol who? KP4MD, got it. Any other check-ins? All right, sounds like a cast tonight. Let's get this show on the road. I just want to announce briefly that I've migrated my entire SSTV workstation over to a one-year-old laptop, which is a quantum leap for me because the one I had before was 15 years old and it was giving me just way too much difficulty. So this is a bright and shiny, relatively new machine. I get to be the net control tonight, so hopefully this will go well. All right, so I will call on Neil. Neil, are you on board yet? All right, I'll check back in just a moment with the KL7HQR. He did say he would be checking in late, but I checked it in. Anders, would you, K3REH, good evening. Would you like to come now with a photo?
Good evening, and absolutely, I'll give this a shot. This is definitely an experiment, so we will see if this works at all. This will be a quick one, PD50. So, here we go.
That's great. That's really wonderful. I picked that up for the first slow scan TV transmission that I have received on my new setup, and it looks great. I might have picked up one over the weekend, a practice session, but this is the first real net receipt. So thank you very much for being my first customer today, Anders. And it came through nice and clear. I see a good color spectrum of basically a full-scale graph, and I have some insight into what this is, but I will not extract all the fun out of it just yet. Let me check and see if Neil made his way in yet. Nothing from KL7HQR. I'll jump down to Joel, AI6DG. 6TG. Were you able to copy the photo?
Yeah, very interesting to receive a different mode. It's always interesting to see what quality and speed. It's always, sometimes it's just absolutely mind-boggling, you know, how well a mode does, either in quality versus speed or quality versus signal-to-noise ratio of what you receive. So we're looking at a graph. Actually, it's multiple graphs on one grid. We got blue, red, and green. And the horizontal scale appears to be dates. So I see September, was it 2nd, 4th, 4th. That doesn't make sense. 2, 4, 5, 8. I can't quite read what the dates are, but it's obviously a date. So there's a cyclic pattern to the blue, so I'm assuming that each blue peak is a day. On the left side, I see some scales. So one is temperature. The next one out, I originally thought it was 10 volts, but then if I turn my head the other way, I think it's AQI, and that's in keeping with a legend at the bottom that where blue is temperature, red is air quality index, and green is CALISO, CALISO, NP15LMP. I have no idea what that means. That must be what the next scale out is, which is from 0 to 1200, whereas AQI is from 0 to 250, and the temperature centigrade is from 0 to 45. And so we're comparing air quality index, temperature, and whatever this LP15LMP is. So you can see the temperature going up and down, air quality index going up and down, and again, I don't know what CALISO MP15LMP is. Back to net AI6TG.
All right, I'm going to, yeah, thank you for that, Joel. That's a pretty good wrap-up there. Neil, are you back? You want to comment on the photo if you're back? KL7HQR, comment time for K3REH, his photo.
Well, it's KL7HQR. Sorry for being late, guys. Yeah, I got very little to add to what Joel said. I have a good copy of a few sparkles here and there, and I was following his descriptions and reading the diagram, but I got a little lost on the green one, also the CALISO. So looking forward to hearing a little bit better, more explanation. But good copy here. Back to that.
Thank you for that, and welcome aboard, Neil. I got you checked in. Carol, KP4MD, did you want to comment on the photo?
Actually, I have done nothing further to add. It looks like a record of temperature, air quality index, and over time. CALISO, I think that has something to do with the electricity, the electrical distribution through California. That's what it sounds like, and I think that has something to do with the consumption of electricity. They must keep a record of that as far as gigawatts of power or something. So back to net controls, KP4MD.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more what I know about this. Earlier in my career, between 2000 and 2005, I was actually an operations engineer at the California Independent System Operator, and what that means, that thing in the lower right-hand corner is California ISO, and the green plot is represents the locational marginal pricing for electricity north of path 15. And well, the long story short is that's basically the upper half of California for the most part. And the orange thing, it looks to me like they're correlating the price, the market price of electricity to the air temperature, the ambient temperature, the outside temperature, which is measured in Celsius, and they're trying to tie it to the air quality index. And I wasn't around when they were doing as much solar as they are today, but I suppose this air quality index has two implications. One is with more particulate matter in the air blocking the sun's rays, it could have an adverse effect on photovoltaic output for utility scale generators. And the other piece to the air quality index might be that fossil fuel-based generating stations might see increased restrictions. I'm kind of throwing a guess out there, but I'm not quite seeing a correlation between all these things. Like I see the locational marginal price way up there on September 8th, which I think is today, but I can't see a link to the air quality index, really. Maybe there's a story here. I sure am interested in hearing from Anders about what he knows about this plot. Nice one. Let's see what you got. Go ahead, Anders. Please tell us about the photo.
So this is a screen capture from one of my systems collecting data over the last week. So the dates at the bottom is about 1 week back. Starts at September 2nd. And as you all said, there is a cyclic behavior to the temperature. That's the outside temperature here outside my garage. So as expected, it's a little colder at night and a little warmer in the day. And you can see that it's really warm today. We peaked at over 40 Celsius. The correlation between the temperature and the smoke level or the air quality index is simply that we can see that the air quality index has gone up very consistently every morning. I don't think that's correlated with the temperature. It just so happens that the winds are like that, have been like that this whole week, where the smoke has kind of come down the hill over the morning hours and then cleared out over the afternoon. And the correlation to the Cal ISO pricing, and this is the green curve is actually just like Wilson said there. It's the pricing, the wholesale price of electricity in California, in Northern California, and this is per megawatt hour. So I just figured it was interesting that it spiked this morning. Yesterday evening, it spiked up to almost $1,000 per megawatt hour. And you can also see that there are two dips in the curve where it actually went down to zero. So I just find it interesting to track stuff sometimes and see if there's any correlation between things, and that's basically what these curves are. They're kind of randomly picked, but I wanted to try with something that was more like a graph, a diagram, and see if that could actually make it over the air on a very low resolution. And it seems like it did. I'm amazed that you could actually read all the digits and that it came through that well. So I'm thrilled. Thank you so much. K3REH, back to Nets.
That's an exhilarating plot, and thank you for sharing the background information on it. The scale for the LMP pricing to the far left, I couldn't see, what it read, but I could see the number way up there, like 1,000. I didn't know that was a price, but that's a very high price. It's typically around $20 a megawatt hour or somewhat around there. But anyway, great story, and thanks for sharing. Yeah, I guess you did a great job transmitting a color photograph with pretty decent resolution of this chart at a very low resolution, in a fast rate. So I've got one for you. You'll like this one. I'll send out pretty soon. Any other points or questions about this chart that Anders has sent?
N6NA, do you have any idea why that super high spike yesterday afternoon on the price?
I have to admit, I'm out of touch with market pricing these days. I could probably find out and get back to you, but usually it's usually some type of market anomaly, like I don't know, I can't. It could be a gas shortage or some other. It could be a fire that affected a significant line or power plant. Those are the only things I could speculate, but I have not heard about this spike And it could be, it's not likely, but it could be some kind of data anomaly. It's very unlikely it's an anomaly in the data, but it could be. Was that Anders?
It wasn't me, but I would just concur with that I have no deeper insight in why that spike occurred last night. But things that affect these pricing is obviously we've had a lot of fires, and it's not unlikely that something broke temporarily and the pricing just spiked because of that. So there's a lot of things affecting these numbers for sure. But yeah, I have no personal deeper knowledge about why that is. But yeah, again, I'm thrilled that it actually came through. I did spend quite a bit of time to try to clean up the picture in such a way that it could properly scale to the 320 by 256 resolution. So I did pre-process it a little bit to make it easier to come through, and it seems like that paid off. So yeah, again, awesome. Thank you so much. K3REH, back to net.
That one was fun. Thank you, Anders. Let me turn it over to, how about Niels? If you're ready to transmit photo, I'll let you go ahead now. Thank you.
Roger. We'll try to send one now. KL7HQR sending a PD120.
Alright, N6NA SSTV, day KL7HQR. Nice, bright yellow letters is what I was able to copy in Niels' photo. And it looks like a perspective of a close-up shot of a garden and some very colorful red flowers. So I can't tell you what they are. I can't take a guess, but very pretty. And I will save any additional insights for maybe for Anders. Anders, K3 REH. Were you able to, you know what? Were you able to copy that, Anders?
I have an excellent copy, and probably one of the best photos that I've ever received on a TV. It was maybe because the intensity of the colors and the patterns in the foreground is high in any effect or any noise in the image. So it looks awesome.
right. Well, Anders, I was able to copy most everything you said, but your voice became very faint in your last transmission. So it's almost like your voice is not filling up the audio in your carrier. You want to try again or make an adjustment?
Now I have touched a knob, and I think this should be clearer.
I picked up everything you said before, but whatever adjustment you've made is working really well now, so thank you.
All right, so I want to repeat myself. Back to net.
Okay, if anybody has any questions for Anders, let him know, and we could always have him repeat any portion of what his signal report. Okay, Joel, AI6DG, were you able to copy the photo from Neil?
Actually, it was an excellent reception. I do see a few noise pops, but it's very clear between the pops. So we've got a bunch of vegetation in the foreground. It looks like we're probably on a city street with a storefront, maybe the corner of a street in the background and the right, because in the background to the left, it looks like we can see a street with an orange curb and cars lined up in the far background in parking going down the street. So I'm assuming this is in a city someplace, like a planter on a street somewhere, or maybe, I guess it could be in front of a nursery store. Yeah, there is a red sign in the background. It doesn't say for rent because it's not F-O-R, it's F-R-E, maybe something, I don't know. So it's all red vegetation. That's the interesting thing. The street looks like it's been rained on in the background, and the leaves seem to have raindrops on them. But most of what's, especially in the center, is all red leaves. There's some green on the right, maybe a different plant, and on the left, there's obviously a different plant because the leaves are green and the leaf shapes are different. And there's some red flowers in the vegetation on the left. So a mix of at least 2 plants, maybe 3 on a city street somewhere, maybe. City planter, city street planting, Anyway, back to net, AI6DG.
All right, well, thank you for that, Joel. Carol, any comments on the photo from Neil?
Well, I did copy it. You could see on YouTube what I copied. Interesting red leaf plant. Pretty good. I have a few pixel pops here and there, but otherwise about 99% good, clear picture. That's all I can say. Back to you, KP Firmd.
All right, well, nice copy report, and thank you, Carol. Well, let's turn it over to Neil for a report or a narrative on his transmission, his image transmission. Go right ahead, Neil.
Scale 7 HQR. Okay, similarly to Anders, this picture was sent as more or less a test to see how well the complex colors and intense colors and the details would show up once you reduce the resolution of the picture to the 480 by 640 by 496. And apparently it did go through reasonably well. This picture, I have no idea what the plant is, but it was taken as we walked through downtown Ketchikan, Alaska during our cruise. And it was right at the door of the store. I have to go see my other pictures because now it piqued my interest to find out what was the free item in that store. But anyway, as we were walking by, it was fairly cool back in the low 50s, high 40s, and it was raining. And it caught both my wife and I, the droplets of water that were accumulating and shining like little jewels on that red background. So we took the picture. So that's basically it. It was just to see how the details would transmit. And like Anders, I'm surprised. It looks like he went through. And as always, Joe has caught all kinds of other details in there. You have good eyes there, sir. Back to that.
I appreciate this one. It's really sort of like an experiment to see how much detail you could pick up and transmit across this interface. So those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about right now as well. I'm experimenting with how to, what effect the different protocols are having on the information I'm sending. So very good. Nice experiment. It turned out pretty good. Any other comments or questions for Neil?
Thing I would like to add is that unless you really make the picture enlarge it and make it full screen, it'll be hard to see the details. But anyway, that's that.
All right, well, right along those lines, I'm going to send one that you might find interesting, hopefully. And here it comes. N6NA EMF will be transmitting a photo in mode called B/W8. If you'll just set up for auto, it should pick it right up. So select auto in your receive mode, and let's give it a whirl. My apologies. I don't think that it's going to do what I expected it to do. It took off in the wrong mode, so I'm going to try it again. BW8, here it comes. All right, net control, N6NA EMF has transmitted a photo, and I guess I'll call on Neil.
Wow, that was fast. That's an interesting mode that I don't think I have seen before. Text box, NMS paint to JPEG to robot, being the black and white, 160 by 120, text in 8 seconds, and I think that's probably what it took. No problem at all copying. And when they say robot, that was my old system that I had, but it was with a green screen, of course, black and white and gray, and it was a P7 phosphorus, so the 8 seconds. It may be the old system back to you.
All right, well, thank you for that comment, Neil. How about Anders, K3REH?
Yeah, that was really fast, 8 seconds, and clear picture, a few sparkles, all black and white, obviously. Wonder if you actually sent a 160 by 120, or if you let the NS SSTV software scale it down for you. So that would be my question. K3REH, back to net.
All right, I've taken note of your question. Anders, great one. Thank you, and appreciate the report. So go right ahead, Joel. Did you did you copy the photo?
Yes, I did. It's always interesting when you're in SSTV. If you're in the transmit tab, doing a right-click on the different modes that you have on the right of the picture window. You do a right-click, it lists the modes, and you can actually reset what those buttons do, what mode those buttons are. But the neat thing is that when you do that right-click, it tells you the name of it, the resolution, and how long it takes to send it. And at the very top, black and white, 160 by 120, 8 seconds. And it came across pretty good. Although you do have the question was interesting, the path of how you got the picture in and out, because not only into MMS-TV, but then how it's being displayed, because it looks to me like there's some anti-aliasing going on, because it's not strictly black and white. I see some grayscale and some aliased edges in what I bring up. So I think a lot of times we have image processing going on in SSTV that we don't know, that we're not aware of, so we don't always actually see what's actually been sent or received. Back to net AI6TG.
All right, well, very good. Thank you for the comments and the questions. And Carol, any comments on the photo that Net Control has sent?
Yeah, it's it came through in 8 seconds, and you can see it on YouTube. Of course, it's low resolution, but those black and white modes can go through much faster. And of course, that's what they used to use back in the time of the robot SSTV cameras and monitors. These really short modes, because everything was monochrome back then anyway. So back to net. This is KP4MT.
All right. Well, thank you, Carol. Let me kind of tell the story behind this. And the long story short is for a long time, I've been involved with SSTV for a little over a year now. I want to thank Carol and Joel for bringing me in and bringing me up to speed. And this is a problem I've been trying to solve for a long time, but I never spent much time on it, to figure it out. But what this is I opened up Notepad in Microsoft Windows and I typed this message in, and it's to indicate that this text was cut and pasted into Microsoft Paint, and it was saved as a JPEG. So the way I did that was I opened up Microsoft Paint and I set up a canvas that was 160 pixels wide and 120 pixels deep, and I set the font to Calibri, which I could have used something like Terminal or Courier. It would have been better. And the font number was set to size 11, and then I pasted that text in a text box inside this. And then I saved it as a JPEG. And then I imported it directly into MMSTV. I picked, kind of told the story backwards, but I picked the fastest protocol I could find, and I learned this from Carol when we were practicing my slow scan TV YouTube streaming training on Saturday morning. I learned this. She sent me something BW12, and I said, oh my gosh, this is great. So I even found one that runs faster than 12 seconds. It runs at 8 seconds. So this was my experiment to send text over slow scan TV, and I think it worked out pretty good. If I could have changed the font to something a little bit larger, maybe 12 or 14, maybe even 16, I would have had less characters to type and maybe a better font like a TrueType, a Terminal, Times New Roman, or Courier. One of those would have worked out really nice. So there's my story, and I'm glad I was able to figure out how to get this to work. It was a lot of fun. N6EMF.
Comment?
Did I miss one?
K3RA Chair, comment?
Go ahead, Anders.
Yeah, so I just learned something that I didn't know. Maybe you know, but if you double-click in the zoomed window, the header says smoothing, so it actually does some smoothing. It's kind of useless on your picture, but I bet that's going to be great on the photos. Haven't tried that. So double-clicking in the zoom window, it adds smoothing to the picture. Just a curiosity. And then the other thing, the aliasing that Joel talked about probably comes from the step with the JPEG, because JPEG will try to interpret the picture a little bit differently. So I think maybe next time try to export it from Paint into BMP, and then take the BMP straight into MMS STV. So that way it should be less alias artifacts in there. K3RA, it's back to net.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Anders. I will try that sometime. Should try it BMP and see what happens. But yeah, that's a really good discussion. It makes you consider a lot of different things. Any other comments or questions on this one? If not, I'll turn it over to Joel, AI6DG, for a transmitted photo or whatever Joel might have.
The double.
I didn't pick your audio out. Joel, go right ahead.
Sorry, I doubled on top of you. Another BMP would be an excellent choice. GIF maybe, or another possibility is to just change the quality of the JPEG. The amount of compression degrades. The higher compression rates on JPEG degrade the image quality, and you can, with really low compression numbers, you can get near perfect images. It's always a trade-off. I do have an image. Let me see. Do I have tone?
You got tone. Well, all right, AI6DG, he's able to send out a pretty good photo with a few pixel pops and nice color spectrum. Looks like a bridge type structure entering into the fog. How's that? How about I turn this over to Neil, KL7 HQR. Were you able to copy?
Scale 7 HQR, yeah, very, very good copy. I am looking at what YouTube picked up, and just as good quality here. Just a few pops here and there. Yeah, looks like a landing of a bridge of some kind of a structure. If you had that the suspension cables, I would say that was something similar to Golden Gate, but obviously not to that extent. But very, very good copy on a little hill with some vegetation and the orange normal prime paint on it, and very good detail. That's in it.
Yeah, it's I can't wait till we get some nice, cool weather around here with some fog. I look forward to it now. All right, well, thank you for that, Neil. How about Anders, K3REH? Were you able to copy?
Yep, excellent copy, and this bridge has the paint and the fog of the Golden Gate clearly, and I'm kind of thinking that it could be from the northern side, that's from the Sausalito side of the bridge. I think it's kind of looks like that. So I'd still, it's so foggy, so maybe the towers are just hidden back there in the fog. But that would probably be my guess. K3REH, back to net.
All right, very good. Yeah, let's see. Joel, AI6DG. Well, I got to skip you now. How about Carol? Would you have any comments?
Yeah, I just say I would imagine that this was some sort of thing on the top of a mountain in some state park or something, because that's where usually Joel gets his pictures. But it is looking really foggy. It could be up in the clouds. I have no idea. Back to nets, KP4MD.
All right. Thank you for that, Carol. How about Joel? Would you like to tell us more about your photo?
This is, in fact, the southern approach to the Golden Gate Bridge. So, and in fact, this was taken on the same day as some of my other photos that I've taken, or that I've sent here from a Christmas tree point with Twin Towers, Twin Peaks area. And all of those were nice in the sun. Well, I actually that day got a sunburn over there and decided to, once I finished taking my pictures there, come over to Golden Gate, and only to arrive over here and get just totally frozen out, because over here it was fogged in. So one side I'm hot and sunburnt, and the other side I'm wet and miserable, and the foghorn was going. So as you approach the bridge and the toll bridge, you don't actually take tolls in this direction going north across the bridge. Well, they don't actually even take tolls south coming across the bridge anymore, since it's all automated. There's no manned toll booth anymore. You just drive through, and you've got the little sensor in the car that bills you automatically, or they read your license plate and send you the bill later. But right before that, there's an exit, and you can turn out, and there's a very small parking lot and a little road that goes underneath the road over to the other side, with even less parking on the other side. But they've got a little museum, gift shop. You've got some World War II gun emplacements that you can walk around and explore. There's a bike and pedestrian trail that goes, I guess, all the way from the city on around, probably over to Seacliff and down the beach past Golden Gate Park. So it's a nice little area to explore and take in some of the history and park, and if you want to start walking across the bridge. So this is it's actually a little, if you look in the lower right corner, you actually see a little placard. So they've got, for the tourists, little placards of information about various things. But this is a section where you've got a little, this little bridge section is going across over to where the bridge starts proper. There's a little arch. This is straight girder system. It goes over to a big cement thing. That's, I guess, the termination of the suspension cable. And then there's an arch that goes over Fort Point. There's an actual, I don't know if it's Civil War era, but I don't know if it goes back to the Civil War, but there's a little fort out there with, bricks and old Civil War style cannons. And they actually redesigned the bridge to go over that fort rather than have to take it out. And obviously it's foggy enough you can't really see too much, especially not the towers. So this particular trip, I think I started walking out. I don't know if I made it to the first tower or not. It was pretty miserable, cold and wet, and with the foghorn running, boo, honk, down below it. It was an interesting day, frozen and fried on the same day. Definitely, though, a place that if you ever get a chance and you want to play tourist, to drive down and visit. Actually, that's true for both ends. On the Sausalito side, there's a much larger parking lot if you're coming into the city going south, with again lots of views and things like this. I can see being confused whether this is on the north or south side because they both have this look. Back to net, AI6TG.
Well, thanks for that narrative, Joel, because I couldn't get oriented in this photograph with the fog, and I didn't see the suspension cables or the rest of the structure. It just at first it didn't register with me, but what you're describing makes a lot of sense now. Now that I know what it is, I recognize it because of those guardrails for the pedestrians and the bicyclists. Now it kind of makes sense. But yeah, great description, and I didn't hear the foghorn when the picture came across, so that was a great rendition of the foghorn. Thank you very much. Any other comments on the photo from Joel?
KL7HQR.
Go ahead, Neil.
That the suspension cable are up and higher and out of the range of the picture, and I'm assuming that the towers are hidden in the fog. But the question, I'm familiar with the visitor center and the parking lot as you go, and you come in from the Presidio, and just you go into the bridge, you go on the right-hand side, they have the sample of the cable in there. Been there many, many times. To go to the fort, I normally go down lower in the Presidio and go on the south side of the bridge, and you go into the fort. But is the fort ahead of us and below the beginning of the bridge here? Give us a little bit more of an orientation how to get to this place and where you located specifically in relation to the fort.
This is, I don't know how you get to the fort because I don't think you get there from where I turned off. Right before where the toll booth would be, that's what I was saying. I think the structure is still there, but they don't take tolls there anymore. Now the cameras are there for the traffic that's coming south across the bridge. To get to Fort Point, I was assuming you have to, I don't know how you get there. Do you go in through the Presidio, or is there an off-ramp before this? I'm not sure. But before the toll booth, you turn off, you park in the parking lot, and you start walking towards the bridge, and there's some place where you can exit out and go down to this bike pedestrian trail. This is going down towards the city, past some Civil War gun emplacement earthworks, and towards Chrissy Field on the right side, and to the left side it's going out towards Cliff House and Baker Beach and so forth. And the road's curving here. That's probably confusing you a little bit because it's starting out going kind of to the left, and it's curving to the right. So the cables are not above us. The cables have already terminated in front of us and down towards the ground. There's a huge block of cement that the cables go into that's just out of view directly in front of us behind all the girder work and the fog. And then from that cement block, there's an arch that goes over to, I guess, to the water line over Fort Point, and girder work from that point over to the first, no, wait a minute, suspension part. Okay, so you've got suspension cables above it at that point. So it doesn't necessarily have to have an arch bridge. It's suspended. The roadbed is suspended from the suspension cables. I'm not sure I'm explaining this well. Maybe just go Google and look at some pictures. A picture's 1,000 words, and this isn't explaining very well what you're asking. Back to net, AI6TG.
KL7HQR. I think you gave me enough information that I know where you are. I just didn't realize that you could walk from the parking lot to this location. Definitely one destination that I will look for when I get there. Thanks again. Back to net.
All Well, very good discussion. Thanks, Joel and Carol. At this time, would you like to send a photo?
Yes, this is going to be PD120, KP4MD.
I've got a pretty good photograph of a young Arnold Schwarzenegger type character. Got OM4YL in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and a very fit bodybuilder. So that's my story. 88 NPS EQS is what's in the lower right-hand corner. But there's got to be an interesting story behind this. It's something to do with OM4YL. Let's see. Let me turn that one over to Neil, KL7HQR.
Roger, KL7HQR. Yep, not much to add. Extremely detailed. Boy, you could actually learn about the muscles, location, and names from a picture like that. Yeah, very good copy in here. I don't remember where Oscar Mike is, but 88, not as much used anymore. Is the hugs and kisses instead of 73s, which is exchanged with and among YLs in the past. I don't know if it's still politically correct, but good copy. Interested in knowing what is behind this picture. Back to that.
All right. Yeah, nice one, Neil. Anders, a K3REH. Did you copy?
So I don't know if this suggests that Arnold has a call sign, so maybe we should start calling this out and see if he responds. K3REH, back to net.
Oh, maybe it's Patrick Kilpatrick, his friend that's running for governor. Anyway, yeah, that's a good one. Joel, AI6DG?
Well, I suppose that's a call sign, but I'm reading it as, oh my, this is for the YLs out there. And wow, that must be this must be near his peak. Look at all those curves. I didn't know that. Wow, that's definitely why he probably won a lot of the events and awards that he did back then. What's interesting to me is I wonder how quickly he lost that, because he definitely doesn't look like that anymore. And is that diet or exercise or other substances imbibed? But anyway, youth. I mean, are we going to have equal time? Is someone going to put up a picture on the other direction? Back to net AI6DG.
Oh, that's hilarious. Thanks for that, Joel. Yeah, Carol, KP4MD, would you like to give the narrative on this one? I think we're getting close.
Yeah, this is KP4MD. This is a picture, actually it's a Fantasy QSL. OM, by the way, is the prefix for Slovakia, the Slovak Republic. And this is not a real call sign, of course, but it's more or less a joke. It's a picture of a former governor on steroids, and he definitely was on steroids at the time. And I sent this in the spirit of the governor recall election that's going on right now. And yeah, the significance of the call sign is OM for old man for young ladies. And I guess it's a little pretentious statement there from that individual towards all the young ladies out there. But it's all in good fun. Back to net. This is KP4MD.
Carol, you never cease to amaze me. You surprise me all the time. This is so much fun, and I didn't know we get cut up like this here. So yeah, one of my friends sent me a photograph. This reminds me of a photograph a friend of mine sent me. It's a photograph of a signpost in a wilderness area, and at the top it reads in bold letters, "Cougar in area," and then in smaller letters it says, "Please stay on trails, travel in small groups, and do not allow men under 30 to travel alone." How about that one?
Yep, that is a hoot. Very good.
All right, do we have any, that was a great one. Do we have any follow-up points or questions for KP4MD? That was a blast. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just kind of give a shout out to the YouTube viewers. I want to admit that I neglected to acknowledge our viewers out there. So if Carol, do you want to acknowledge the viewers, take a moment to identify them and say hello?
Yeah, I'll just say the people on YouTube, say hi to Alf, who actually received one of our pictures there on his Mac computer. He tried it for the first time, and he actually got a picture. He was absolutely thrilled to do that. Neil also is on there, and so is Craig down in Louisiana. So shout out to all you guys watching us. Back to net, KP Firm.
Right, special thanks to the YouTube viewers for checking in, and Alf, if you would be so kind to maybe leave in the comments what program you're using on the Mac, that would be useful. And let me seek to close out the net in just a few minutes. I'm going to do something fun. I'm going to send one last photo in BW8. I don't expect anyone to comment on it, but it's for the viewers out there. It's sort of a thank you note coming from the Slow Scan TV cast we have here tonight. So let me give that a whirl. It should only take 8 seconds. lastly, I want to thank Carol for running the YouTube channel tonight and express special thanks to her for spending an hour and a half with me last Saturday morning, preparing me to provide backup net control service for YouTube streaming. So I'll be ready for that in a week or two. Thanks again, Carol, and making progress on those little work items. So I want to say thanks to all who participated in tonight's SSTV Net. We hope to see you again next Wednesday at 9 o'clock p.m. The net is officially closed at 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. This is Wilson, November 6th, Echo Mike Foxtrot, wishing you all a good evening. 7-3.
This was a really fun and full of experience.